Welcome back to the Self-Esteem and Confidence Mindset podcast with me, Johnny Pardo. Today, we're going to be talking about self-confidence, weight loss, setting goals, and much, much more. Today's guest is an old friend of mine, Harry, who has been on his own journey of weight loss, which hasn't just been about weight loss, but he teaches lots of things around mindset and transformation. Harry is a weight loss and mindset transformation coach, helping those who have tried everything to lose weight. So, first of all, Harry, I'd like to welcome you to the show. Thank you so much for being here. And my first question, really, for you, just so we can get to know you a little bit better, is what inspired you to help other people with this weight loss? And maybe share a little bit about your story as well.
Well, first and foremost, Johnny, thank you so much for having me on the show. It's been a long while since we had a conversation. So just to let everybody know as well, Johnny was a fine centre midfielder and centre back for my Montacute team back in the day. But there we go. So going to your questions, mate. In fact, I think I'll start with the second question first, which is like how I started the journey. I, as you were aware, was a big old lad back in the day. And I went through phases of my life where I was taking without really knowing, taking fitness seriously, without any knowledge of like the things that I teach now, such as calories, energy in, energy out balance, etc. Being in okay shape. And then all of a sudden I'd like go through moments where I wouldn't do anything. And then eventually that led to me being in a situation where I was working at Asda on security for 5 years of my life where I wasn't really moving around and ended up getting to like near 23 stone. So just completely overweight. And the subconscious thing about that is when you're overweight and not moving and obviously not very confident leading to the podcast, you tend to become very unhappy as well. So from that, it turned into a bit of a progressive journey on like trying to shift weight different ways, you know, salads, couscous, all the horrible stuff that you turn to, no carbs, jogging, and then eventually like putting the pieces together with various coaches, various inspirations along the way, like putting my own sort of what I preferred out of all of these things into one pile and doing it that way. And then eventually I'm now like gone from 23 stone down to like sort of high 15s. So doing pretty well, but I'm going to say most of that's muscle now anyway.
Oh, that's awesome. Well, congratulations on all that transformation. And no, I do appreciate that share and what you've done in terms of your progress. So one of my first questions, especially in this world, where we don't tend to see like results straight away, right? When we try something new. So not necessarily just touching on weight loss here, it could be many things like starting a business, for example, or learning to get good at like driving, even as a simple example. How did you build confidence along the way when you wouldn't necessarily see results at the beginning?
Well, I mean, yeah, you're absolutely right. And that's one of the key things that I teach my clients now is that like there are some weeks you're going to jump on the scales, for example, if it's a weight loss goal, that you're not going to see any movement. You're going to stay the same, for example. And especially with women, like you find that due to their menstrual cycle and stuff, that you do find a couple of the weeks of the month where they do just stick because of the water, like density within their body, holding on to water because of the movements that their body are doing. But for me, it was always because I was so big, actually, Johnny, at the time, when I started my weight loss journey, it was easy. Like I would see regular massive movements on the scales. And then that would turn into like comments from other people. Oh, Harry, like, are you trying to lose weight at the moment? You're looking really good. And like there's photos of me in that time where obviously I was getting a little bit of like positive feedback from other people. But obviously within myself, I knew that there was loads of work to do. But in regards to your question, of course, throughout this, like I'm going to say that I've been on this journey, let's say, of like controlling my weight. Let's call it health and well-being now, not just weight loss, trying to be the best version of myself for around 7 years. And I would say probably for 3 of those years, there's been no movement whatsoever on the scales. It's been focused on other things. But I believe that like when you solely focus on scales and if you solely focus on weight, you're going to lead yourself to maybe like a little bit of unhappiness. You're looking for like a little bit of a quick gain by like, or a quick bit of pleasure by looking at the scales and seeing that they've gone down a little bit. So I always encourage people, it's not just about the weight loss in regards to the scale movement. It's about looking at other things around your health and well-being that can almost, you can look at as a goal. So let's say like you've never ran a 10K, for example. You can say that's your goal, not weight loss specifically. Focus on the 10 kilometers, running that 10 kilometers, getting that medal at the end, which will give you genuine satisfaction and happiness. And alongside that, as a bonus, you'll get probably some movement on the scales as well. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, it kind of leads very nicely on something else I wanted to ask you about, and about setting goals as well, because you could quite easily, think, and again, I think what we're talking about today applies to several areas in life, or multiple areas in life. You could quite easily think, I don't want to be this way anymore, or in another example, I don't want to be in this relationship anymore, I don't want to be in this job anymore. Many different areas. So for you, was the importance of setting goals you were perhaps excited about, or that drove you, rather than looking at what you didn't want? Did that have a big impact?
Well, so setting goals for me has like a, if I'm going to be totally honest with you and the listeners, it has a separate meaning. So when I was losing weight solely, as I said, it was just solely based on losing weight. And I got myself to like a reasonable shape, to be fair, but found myself Christmas 2020 just in this like level of unhappiness that I didn't really know how to deal with. Like I was just like given a quick example. It was Christmas Day 2020. And I was just incredibly unhappy, like upset in front of my mum and her partner now. Didn't really know why. There was no real explanation. And again, that sort of like triggered something for me. Like I used it as a bit of a sign to like find out like why that was. Obviously, with a bit of research, and like yourself, Johnny, looked into a bit of coaching with a guy called Paul Mort. I know you've not used him as a coach, but he was my coach, and quickly found out that one of the reasons that I was so upset and not very happy was because I wasn't really driving towards anything at the time. My weight loss was under control. I was in a really comfortable job without like pays really well. There's no real pressure involved in it. I wasn't managing Montacute at the time. And I just had nothing outside of the realms of general life that was inspiring me or motivating me. So that is where goal setting comes in for me hugely. Like I cannot imagine my life now without something that I'm driving towards. And that doesn't even need to be something massive. I'm not currently looking to climb up Mount Kilimanjaro in December.
Mm-hmm.
Like that's not what I'm saying, but something that inspires me is helping people, which comes back to your first question. Why do I do that? Well, I love doing it. I've always been a coach of some format.
Yeah.
So being a people person leads to being able to talk with people. I've had past experiences of losing weight, and that's something again in modern day society that people struggle with because of the hustle and bustle of life. People think they've got no time. Nobody's really got the genuine knowledge, unless they've been taught it, of how to lose weight properly. So that's one of my goals that I've got. I want to help as many people as I possibly can. Obviously, like yourself, John, I've got my podcast. But going back to the main point is that goals for me mean so much more than just goals. They are they're, as I've heard it used, the analogy before is they are the animal you hunt as a man or a woman that in life. Like we have this thing within us that needs to be looking towards something and driving towards something. And like if you think about us as Homo sapiens back in the day, you'd have to hunt your food, find fresh water, make sure you've got something to sleep on, make sure you've got shelter. Well, actually, like humans now, we don't have that. Like we have it, but it's just put on a plate for us, really. Like if you really wanted shelter, food, and whatever, you could find it for 50p, and like somebody would lend you a bed for the night, right? So you don't really have to drive towards that. So you have to put your drive and focus into something which you enjoy, which for me is, of course, coaching and podcasting.
Wow, that's a really powerful answer, Harry. Really like what you said there, and particularly you got some coaching of Paul and then you've also been doing a lot to research this. I think a lot of us like to try and do it on our own, so I think you're showing the value of reaching out and getting that guidance and actually quicken your journey as well.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, absolutely.
I just like to say as well, mate, just to add on to your point about like trying to do it yourself. Another one of those analogies that I've like, it's firmly stuck in my brain. I think as men specifically, we're kind of like taught that like you're not really supposed to look out and you're stronger if you're doing it by yourself. Well, the lone wolf always starves. That's what I'll always say. Like, if ever you need help, you need to ask for it. If ever you, even if you don't really think you need help, but you're like 50-50, not sure whether to do it or not, you're never going to lose anything by asking somebody for a bit of help. Yeah, you may have to pay a few £100 or £1,000 to get some expert help. But even if you're going for a mate with a coffee, he may have a different perspective on your current situation. Or even if you separate £500 or £1,000 between you and getting some expert help, what's the cost of not doing that? Don't look at the cost of doing it, you know?
Love it. I'm very very strong. It's often what we talk about on here about investing in yourself, because we can see, we can actually blow the money in other ways that's not going to serve us, like, going out and eating when you could save in. There's other creative ways of not spending money on clothes you don't need. Whilst I found personally, I don't know about you, Harry, but it's always come back to me in some kind of way when I put into myself through like business coaching, or whether it's confidence coaching initially when I was stuck. And it sounds like it has done for you as well in terms of your progression as well. So,
well, yeah, 1,000,000%. Like I can't imagine myself, like I'm a coach myself, yeah, but I couldn't imagine not being coached now to just continually improve.
Yeah, absolutely. Great point. Obviously, now talking about reaching out for help, one key thing I want to touch on was like self-awareness, going through the journey and being able to connect with yourself. How important for you was finding the time to do that in your journey, just kind of with various techniques? And were there any techniques that helped you with your self-awareness, whether that was journaling, meditation, anything like that?
Yeah, so I remember like when I first was going through these sort of like, let's just call them like anxious or sad spells. So I was never like at a depressed stage where like I was thinking about doing anything stupid. I had some really dark thoughts and I didn't like them. One of the first things that I ever like, obviously when you go into that realm of looking about like what's going on within your brain and stuff, that one of the first things I ever did, Johnny, was read a book called The Chimp Paradox by Professor Steve Peters, I believe it is.
Dr. Steve Peters.
And the quickest best lesson I learned straight away was that like this monkey or like chimp, the part of your brain, I think it's called the amygdala, which is like the reactive part of your brain, is always going to be there, and it's always going to have something shit to say about the situation. That's the first thing, and like there's nothing you can do about that. The second thing that I learned, that helped me with these like feelings at the time, was to start meditating. And meditation for me, like it enabled me to sit with these thoughts without any judgment or criticism towards myself. It was like 10 or 15 minutes of the day where like genuinely, Johnny, I'd sit in the bath with a like nice relaxing bath, sometimes with a candle on, and just close my eyes for 10 or 15 minutes and just allow whatever it was to like go through my head. Now, obviously that sounds a bit dramatic, but like when you slow it down, and one of the best analogies that I've ever heard from it is from Andy Puddicombe, who runs Headspace. Like he's created the app. He's an amazing guy. If you don't know who he is, he basically says with your thoughts, if you imagine your thoughts as cars going down a motorway at like 70, 80, 90 miles an hour, and you're stood on a bridge above a motorway and you just see these thoughts going through. So one of them's going to say, I'm hungry. One of them's going to say, let's just say you're worried about a situation the next day. And that one that you worry, the thought that goes through that you're worried about something, if you focus on it and you're like, I don't like that one, you are then going to bring yourself into that car and get caught along with it. However, meditation teaches you to just stand on the bridge and just watch them. So like all of the cars, like I'm trying to explain it in the best way I possibly can. And the other way to think about it as well is like your brain is like the sea, and like sometimes the sea is choppy. It's going to be a little bit wayward here and there. You're not going to like people. You're not going to be too fond of yourself. But other times the sea is calm, like Weymouth seafront. Yeah, it's just going to be a nice little brisk little wave coming in. And I think that's one of the best ways that it took the sting away from like analyzing these thoughts, becoming self-aware like of what was going through my head. And then like just to add my third point, journaling, it keeps me focused towards my goals, Johnny. Like I sit down every morning and every evening. Every morning I'll write down 4 things that I want to achieve in the day. I'll write down how I want to feel, how I'm going to feel that way, who I want to help in the day, etc. Loads of other questions. And then at the end of the day, I'll sit down and review the day. What have I achieved? Who have I helped? How have I felt? What can I do better tomorrow? And just taking these like 5 minutes, it's 5 minutes in the morning and 5 minutes in the evening. It just allows you to become so much more self-aware and so much more self-controlled, because you know what you've dealt with good in the day. You know the things that you are inspired to do, like that don't need much leverage to be able to go and achieve them. And you also can sit down and work out what's gone wrong. So have you reacted badly? Johnny, I've seen your video about getting on a train the other day, waiting for everybody to get on and then analyzing the situation. On another day, you could have got on that train, been really pissed off that you had to stand up with everybody else. And that would have been the thing you put down in your journal to say, next time I would wait and get on at the end, to wait for everybody to get on and see where I can sit down. So yeah, that's like a real basic overview of what I do. But those 3 things there, like just recognizing that sometimes within your thoughts, they're going to be a bit shitty. It just happens, about other people, about yourself, about situations. Secondly, meditating. I would advise anybody to, like, I think one of the biggest things for people is that meditating has this label of being this like Buddhist sat in a valley, legs crossed, hands up, but it's really not. You can do it however and wherever you want. And then finally, just putting down your thoughts, giving yourself some inspiration for the day by writing down some goals that you're happy with to go and achieve, and then reviewing them at the end of the day can make a massive difference to how you're feeling within your self-awareness.
So great tools there and great shares for self-awareness and making that time for you. And I remember hearing a quote, I think once, if you don't have like 5 minutes for meditation, you don't have a life. Basically, you can't have a life, basically, and a very direct approach sometimes you need to hear. But it's again like allowing yourself time for thoughts. And something I like to do is, it may reduce to an hour depending on my schedule, 30 minutes depending on my schedule, but for 1 hour a day is like walking and thinking, because I know that's a key to give me kind of new insights and ideas.
100%.
So thanks for those insights, the journaling, the meditation, and how you're approaching that. So just a couple of last questions, really, but been a great valuable guest as I expected. So for you, this can kind of refer to weight loss, but other things as well. And it comes from one of my favorite books. It's a book called Willpower Doesn't Work. And a couple of the books you were referencing, well, Headspace and Chimp Paradox, they're great, amazing, an app, and obviously the book as well are amazing as well. But Willpower Doesn't Work talks about like systems a lot and how we can set ourselves out to win. Because if perhaps, for example, in the weight loss example, you're surrounded with chocolate and high sugar snacks and crisps all over your home, it's probably not going to be sustainable to keep yourself away for it for too long a time. for you in your journey, have you found setting up systems to win really been effective? And kind of that's what I just wanted to ask you about, really. Is there anything that's been effective for you in your weight loss journey in terms of setting up systems to win?
Yeah, one of the like biggest and most open answer I can give you for that is completely not withdrawing, because that would be an over exaggeration, but cutting back massively on my alcohol consumption. Um, Alcohol obviously is full of calories. It's a carb based drink. On average, a pint is around 200 calories. So if you're smashing back 8 pints every Saturday night and Friday night, you're eating a day and a half's worth of food at least in a couple of sessions drinking. So that's a system that I've just put in. I have almost like, I would say, Johnny, that I drink once a month maximum now. Um, and that has just helped in terms of like the maintenance of my weight. And if I ever want to be in a frame of mind where I want to pack on some muscle and look a bit leaner or lose a few kilograms in a stage, taking alcohol out completely is a massive tool for me. In regards to like the early stages of my weight loss, yeah, of course there were systems in place. Like I would be living with my dad. I'd be saying to my dad, right, I'm doing the shopping for us. I won't be bringing back crisps, chocolate, biscuits because it gets eaten. And I think that's important that like if you are relying on willpower and you are a massive fan of these sorts of foods, that you don't have to take them out completely, because within a calorie controlled diet, if you're tracking your calories correctly and are hitting your calories in a maintenance, or no, sorry, in a deficit that is going to give you that weight loss, like gradually over a long period of time. Having a chocolate bar a day or a packet of crisps a day isn't going to necessarily kill you. But like you say, Johnny, if your drawer's full of them and you can't stop opening packets of crisps or can't stop chucking back chocolate bars, then of course you have to put a system in place to help that. And that, like, again, shouldn't be looked at as like a negative thing for somebody individually, because back in, again, I'm going to talk about the hunter gatherer days. If you found a high sugar content food in the wild, you'd be stood by that bush or stood by that plant eating the whole bush full of stuff, because you'd never know when you were going to find those sorts of foods again. So like it's just wired in our brain that if we're sat next to a pot of pick a mix and you eat two or three of them and it's still there, your brain's going, I want them. So actually picking them up and putting them out of sight is probably the best tool that we've got.
Oh, that's very true. I love the evolutionary like psychology references and how we've evolved, but there's still so much that's the same. Like in those days that we're just like, I'm gonna eat it all, or like I try to survive, and those kind of things. So yeah, that's some great insights on systems as well. So Harry, been an awesome guest today, and really appreciate you coming on. So just before we round off today, is there any final point or points you'd like to share? And also, where can people find more from you?
Cool. Final points. I think if anybody's struggling and they can reference like, or sorry, not reference, resonate with anything I've said regarding not feeling happy and being sad without really any reason, like you'll probably find there is a reason, and that's probably you're not focused in the right areas. What you focus on grows. If you're focusing on being anxious, if you focus on being sad, if you focus on being depressed, you're going to feel more of those things. If you focus on being happy, if you focus on being present, if you focus on being inspired, if you watch people that inspire you, listen to people that make you laugh, you will feel more of those feelings, I promise you. So just change your direction. In terms of weight loss, I am a weight loss coach. So if you want to come and find me to find out more about my stuff, you can find me on Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, Twitter at the Grassroots Guy Pod, I believe. Let me just double check that. I'll send the link over to you anyway, Johnny.
Yeah, we'll grab the link.
And also, if you are interested, I have a free audiobook which documents, or what's the other word? Like, it audios my journey. It puts down into really simple to follow tips, how I went about shifting the weight that I've lost and maintaining the shape that I'm in now. So if anybody's interested in that, I'll send Johnny over the link for that as well, and they can sign up and I can send it through to them.
Definitely some great resources there that you've provided us with. So we'll definitely include those in the show notes. So once again, Harry, a big thank you for coming on today.
You're welcome, mate. Honestly, I really appreciate it. And if you would like to come on to the Grassroots Guy podcast, it would be a pleasure.
Awesome. Thank you. So that concludes our episode for today. And remember, you are in control of your own self-esteem and confidence.